Good morning. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. I think this conference is phenomenal, and the first time I came to it was the last face-to-face one, and I was just blown away by the types of talks that were here, just the interaction. So it's just wonderful to be here and share some of the really important work that I really hope will be really useful to you all. I just want to tell you a bit more about Melanoma Focus for those who aren't familiar with it. So this is our vision with the experts in melanoma, sharing a better future for melanoma patients. And some of the things we do, we fund research and we maintain authoritative information for resources, and that's for patients and for professionals. Practical support, we have a helpline that's run by really experienced clinical nurse specialists, skin cancer clinical nurse specialists from around the country. We raise awareness, and for those of you who might have seen some of our awareness campaign throughout the month of May, we had some great posters in all the service stations across the UK. We advance melanoma knowledge in terms of education, and we've also in May, it's been a very busy month for us, we had our professional educational meeting. And we develop clinical guidelines, and that's in all forms of melanoma. So cutaneous melanoma is the most common form of melanoma, but we also develop guidelines in the rarer forms of melanoma, such as uveal and mucosal, and the uveal guidelines have just been updated, and that's on our website. And we act as a professional membership organisation for those professionals, so that's dermatologists, surgeons, oncologists, clinical nurse specialists working in the field of melanoma. And we contribute to national debates, and we've just given a response to the National Cancer Plan, 10-year plan. And I'm so delighted to share with you some of the updates. And so we've been working really hard over the last couple of years, updating the Melanoma Stages and Treatment Patient Guide. This was previously the Patient Decision Aid, and this has been chaired by Miranda Payne. The Melanoma Trial Finder, which Professor Patel has touched on, and I'll be delighted to share some of that information with you. There are two versions of that on the website. There's one for professionals and one for patients. They contain exactly the same trials, but the patient version has been broken down into a format and checked by patients to ensure that it's understandable and in a way that has information that to explain really who those trials would be for. And we've got a research officer who we've taken on to support this whole project, and she's connected with all the trial centres and the sponsors to ensure that this information is accurate and is kept up to date. Professor Patel mentioned some of the sites which house the clinical trial information. We're scraping data from all those sites, as well as checking them and checking that where the clinical trials are being run. And I mentioned that uveal guidelines have been updated, and that's been and that was chaired by Dr. Paul Nathan, who's one of our trustees, who I know will be speaking with you today. So I'm going to just give you a bit more information about the Melanoma Stages and Treatment Guide and also the Trial Finder. So the Melanoma Patient Guide, this has been created in partnership with patients, and some of the patients, and thank you to you, who are in this room today. We couldn't have done this without you. We had a feedback session about our current patient information on skin melanoma, and we gathered lots of information about what was wanted, what we needed to update, and we really had a focus on stage 3 and stage 4, particularly on adjuvant treatment, and we've created lots of assets there, not just for you, but also for clinicians to ensure that they're shared with patients. We've created animations to explain sentinel lymph node biopsy. Again, at every stage, we've checked it with patients. We've had 2 surgeons who helped us with this, and then before it was finally created, we had patients who gave us feedback. And thank you to all of you. And we've got videos that Elaine Vickers, who's a science communicator, created videos for us to explain melanoma, why you might have got it, to explain immunotherapies, to explain targeted therapies, and to explain TVEC. Again, these have all been validated and checked with patients as well, that we've pitched it correctly. And then we've developed further information on health and well-being. And there's a whole host of this information. So we've got vitamin D and melanoma, the diet, microbiome, exercise, fertility, mental health, life after treatment, follow-up, melanoma survival rates, and what to look out for after surgery. This is one of the diagrams that was created to explain adjuvant treatment. We've got one for each stage of stage 3. There's one for stage 3A, 3B, 3C, and 3D to help explain. There's a lot of text around it, but I'm just showing you some of the images that we've created. And these are just some of the videos. If you do want to see them, I can always show you some of them on our computer as well, or send you the links. And then, of course, the trial finder. Hugely excited about this project. This was what drove me actually to come and help work at Melanoma Focus. I really wanted to get this off the ground. I think it's a hugely important project for patients as well as professionals. So there are various sections in this. There's the finder trial. Professor Patel explained clinical trials today, but we've also got a section in the website to help understand clinical trials. And then we've got trial news. Within the what is a clinical trial, there's information about why clinical trials are so important, why you might consider a trial, the aims of trials, how clinical trials work, the possible advantages and disadvantages of trials, questions you might want to ask your medical team, and then importantly, we've got a glossary, which I think is really, a lot of this terminology is new, and you're not going to be expected to understand it. So there is a glossary there to help support. So this is the searching a trial element. And you can search by various aspects. You can see, so currently we've got 18 trials on there. And they're in 64 locations. This is changing regularly, and we're constantly updating this. So you can search by type of melanoma, stage, you can select a mutation as well, or you can just search by your location and proximity to a location. And this is showing some of the information that will hopefully be available, is available for each trial. So it starts off with who can take part, and then we've got just some general information on the side. And then I mentioned the helpline. So this is a national free confidential helpline that's manned by experienced clinical nurse specialists, as I mentioned. They're from the main teaching hospitals from around from around the country. And they're there to support patients, carers, the general public, anyone who has a concern about melanoma, from diagnosis to treatment. And we're planning on increasing that service this year. And here's some of the quotes from some of the users of the helpline. Probably about a third of people call more than once, and we do monitor the calls. We have a lead nurse who also sort of reviews all the calls to make sure that everything is answered appropriately. And we send out questionnaires if appropriate and if agreed to, so we're constantly feeding back. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this with you.